One of the ways I explain people manipulating the mind, manipulating the person and controlling the situation, forcing you to be frustrated for their fulfillment, it's like drifting a car. You push it beyond the point where it can hold on and you keep it there. It's totally out of control, but it's under your control. So you push it beyond the point where it can actually handle normal. You know, it's no longer normally handling, it's beyond that point, it's out of control. You sustain it in that position of being out of control, but it's totally under your control. And that is what people do when they're deliberately manipulating a situation. Especially with someone you need to make progress with. You have to make progress with them. You've got no choice but to make progress with them. And they do everything they can to frustrate you. They refuse to answer your questions. They deny what they've done. They carry out any process of keeping you on that spot because that's where they want you. They're literally drifting your mind. You know, they're keeping you in a state where you are out of control but totally under their control. It's purely for their fulfillment. And then when you completely spin out and crash into a wall, you know, you've snapped. That's the point where it's gone too far. You know, you're going to do damage. An external person will attack the person who's harming them. An internal person will harm themselves. But at that point at which someone snaps and actually lashes out, it's the same pathway. It's just the difference between whether you're an internal person or an external person as to whether you do it to someone else or to yourself. But I don't think a lot of people really investigate why things happen to get a proper understanding. You know, when most murders are carried out by someone that the person knew. You call that a crime of passion or whatever, because of what is deemed to be or thought to be the emotions in the moment. But once you give the victim status and you don't look at their role and their actions in the process, then it's hard to understand what's really happened in terms of anything other than looking at the perpetrator, and you have to make it all the perpetrator's fault. And it's like domestic abuse. I'm not saying anyone deserves it, but you can't say that the person in every situation, the victim, is 100% free of any kind of blame. You know, you might be at the end result of a man hitting a woman, but that could have been years of her hitting him, years of her degrading him, years of her physically attacking him, but then that one time, all those times he's held his temper, the one time he snapped is then the scum of the earth. It's not necessarily the reality, is it? But no one's going to look into what has led up to that situation. And then it's his fault for not reporting it. You know, he should have reported every time she attacked him. But maybe that person tried. You know, it's like when you're a kid and you run away from home. What do the police do? Bring you back, and then you're in more trouble. You try and tell them what's going on, but they're not going to listen to you because you're a little troublemaking runaway, aren't you? What a problem. Yet again, you've reached out for help. You've asked the authorities, you've tried to report it, you've tried to explain what's happening, but it's the first time they've heard about it. Why should they believe it? Why should they accept it? Why should they take it on board when you've got 2, 3, 4 other people telling a different story? It's just absolute madness. And then it's that thing again that you're in such a state that you're unable to be in that place. Everything's so out of control and beyond control that you have to leave. You had no choice but to be there, but then you're given back to those people who are doing that to you. You're put back in their hands and they still have control. They're still drifting your mind. But you see, why do people do things like drifting? It's satisfaction, isn't it? That level of control over something, that ability to make it perform in that way, that personal fulfillment, that you're making it do that. You are the reason it's doing that. You've made it do that. That level of control and excitement, that buzz, that thrill, that moment, that satisfaction. And there really are sick, horrible people out there who will get that satisfaction, that buzz, that thrill out of harming you mentally. Because no one will ever see the wounds. And you know they're choosing you to do it. They single you out for it because you start growing up a bit. You start looking around and realising that they don't behave that way with other people. You see, if that was their behaviour and that's just the way they are, then they'd be that way with everyone, wouldn't they? So the fact that they're only behaving that way with you proves that they are targeting you with that behaviour. It proves they are reserving that for you. You are the only person that you see them doing that to. How can you not then realise that you are their target? How can you not realise that they do it to you for their fulfilment? Why wouldn't you then realise that that is their coping mechanism? That is their coping strategy. That is how they cope. Sometimes it's because they can't do it to anyone else. And they so need to do it. They so want to do it. There's so much for them personally to gain from doing it. But they're so incapable of standing up to anyone else. They do it to a little child. They do it to their wife. They find someone who they can inflict that on. Sometimes I think the film is Football Factory. And there's a scene in the pub. There's Billy. He's like the leader of the crew. He's like some big man. There's a young boy called Zebedee. And they're talking about how sort of tough they are, this, that, the other. And then Billy says to the boy Zebedee, put your hand out. Because he wants to see how much it's shaking. He wants to see how nervous he is. He wants to see his hand. He says, you're just a little boy. And then Zebedee says back to him, well, why don't you put your hand out, Bill, and we'll see how grown you are. And Billy freaks out, like, who are you talking to? What, you think you're clever? You want to take this outside? All this sort of bullying him, frightening him, making him back down. And then later on there's a scene where this kid Zebedee is talking to some really little kids. And he goes to one of them, put your hand out. And the kid puts his hand out and he's shaking. He goes, you're just a little boy. And the kid says to him, why don't you put your hand out and show us how old you are? And then Zebedee freaks out and has a go at him. And that's how bullying works. You know, in a short space of time in that film, they've represented the cycle of abuse. Someone does it to that person, so that person makes it normal that it happened to them by doing it to someone else. They find a weaker victim. They find someone who's already a victim. They find someone who's a target. And then they do the exact same thing to them. Because then it makes them feel better about the fact it happened to them. It's like they lose sight of reality. They don't have a grasp on the fact that it was wrong when it happened to them. That's the problem with me. I need to reflect back on everyone who's done something to me, and when they do something to me, I need it to come back on them. Because I'm not looking for an onward chain. I'm not looking to create a cycle. I don't need to create victims. You see, that person should never have behaved that way to me in the first place. Well, then I'll reflect back upon them, their failings, their behaviours. But I'm not meant to be able to. That's their problem, that I'm not meant to be able to. I'm not meant to be capable of doing that. You see, just like with a therapist, I'm not meant to be capable of seeing what they're doing. I'm not meant to be capable of knowing that's what's really happening. I'm not meant to be capable of having such a good, clear grasp of reality. I'm not meant to be capable of thinking so well, thinking so clearly, and being so capable of reflecting back upon them what they're doing and making them face themselves. But it's what I've been doing all my life. But you see, when I was a kid, my parents thought they were getting away with it. My family thought they were getting away with it. But if I'd reacted, I would have got a beating. So I just sit there and don't react. I became non-reactive. They weren't getting away with it. No one's ever got away with anything with me. It might have happened without a reaction in the moment, but they never got away with it, and that's what they now can't face. Because for them, it all went away in the moment. For them, it made them feel better about someone doing it to them. Now they think that I'm making them feel bad by going back to them and telling them what they done to me. But they know what they done to me. They done it on purpose. They knew how bad it was when someone done it to them. So why couldn't they be grown enough to take it on board, deal with it? Why couldn't they stand up to that person who was bullying them? Why couldn't they front it out? Why weren't they big enough and tough enough to deal with it? Because I, as a little kid, had to deal with things that they couldn't deal with as a grown adult. And I dealt with it. So if I can deal with all your grown up shit, all your grown up shit, all that one's grown up shit, all their grown up shit being dumped on me when I was a little kid, why can't you, as a grown up, just deal with what you've done? Are you really that pathetic? Are you really that weak? You genuinely are that weak that you cannot cope with facing yourself and your own actions? Well then what are you doing now? You are further proving why it is you abused me, because I was your coping mechanism. Something happened, you couldn't cope, you inflicted on a little child. Without something or someone to inflict on, you cannot cope. And then when I stand there saying you can't inflict on me anymore because I see what you're doing, you cannot cope. I was your coping strategy. For so many people, I was the coping strategy. You could inflict on me and it'd all go away. I'd feel bad. I'd feel bad about how everyone would look at me as a victim, how everyone would look at me for wanting it, how everyone would say I was dirty, or how they'd say I was this or that. Like being told by your family about the drugs and everything. If anyone ever finds out what goes on here, we'll all end up in prison, you'll end up in care and your life will be worse. Then who'll look after Nan? So then they knew exactly what they were doing wrong. They knew it was wrong. They knew it was wrong. They knew it was so wrong that they needed me to never ever mention it and keep that secret. Because if anyone found out, everyone would be in trouble. So they knew that it was wrong. Now they can't start acting now like they didn't know what was going on, didn't know anything was wrong, didn't know it was that bad, and well, we didn't know everyone was coming around doing that. You did. You did. You knew it so well, and you knew how wrong it was, but you told me to keep that a secret. So how can you now run away and deny it? Because you got away with it at the time. So now you need to get away with it now, and you can't cope with the fact that you can't just keep getting away with it. It'd be so much better if you could just get away with it. It'd be so much better if I just back down and accept that I don't know what time of day it is, I don't know reality, I don't know the truth. Show me where my logic fails. Show me. Pull it apart and say, look, you ain't got a clue what's going on, your logic's absolute rubbish, none of these points connect up, none of them make any sense when you go through them forwards, it don't make any sense when you go back through them, there's no way in which it makes any sense. Actually prove me wrong. You can dispute all you like, you can cry all you want, you can discredit me, you can deny. But can you disprove the reality and the logic of what I state? Because until you can disprove it and remove it, it stands. No matter how much that makes you cry, no matter how much that upsets you, no matter how much you want to run away, or lie to each other, or make up stories to convince each other that I'm this horrible person. You can do that all you want. And yeah, when I talk to that next person, they won't listen because their mum said, their aunt said, their sister said, my brother said, my dad said. All you're doing is proving what kind of idiots you are. You're in the playground. Oh, but she said, but he said, but she said. It's what kids do. They run to the teacher, they get their side in first, then you try and tell the truth. You can't tell the truth because we heard this, we heard that, we heard this. You're grown adults having kids, and you haven't got out of the fucking playground. And then I'm meant to respect you. Give me something to respect. Have an adult conversation, take on board the reality of what's happened, be honest, deal with it, face it, and then we make progress. But you don't want progress, because progress means you have to stop inflicting on me. Progress means you have to accept what you've done. You don't want to accept what you've done, and you don't want to stop inflicting on me. The most you can do is have nothing to do with me. And that's the nearest you get to controlling the interaction now. Well done. Congratulations. You know, like, yeah, you're respectable people, you're decent people. I can really respect you as parents. I can't think why your marriage is foul. Can't think of anything why anything has ever gone wrong in your life. No. You're incapable of living an adult life. So you have to make me incapable of living an adult life. Because all the ways that I am capable are too much for you to cope with, so you've decided to degrade me every day of my life. Every opportunity you got, every interaction we had was an opportunity for you to degrade me and convince me and program me to believe that I am wrong for being me. Convince me that I'm paranoid. Convince me that I'm crazy. Convince me that I'm wrong. Because 5 people are saying a different thing, so I must be wrong. Stop lying to yourself. Stop lying to each other. Stop lying to me. Stop lying to the rest of the world. Prove me wrong. I'm waiting. I'm sure it'll happen one day, but until you develop the ability to take on board what has happened, how are you going to prove it wrong? Because you have to deal with what has actually happened, don't you? You have to look at what's actually happened, take that on board as a scenario of what's happened, then have an explanation of why that makes logical sense versus mine. I don't just mean opposing the little points I make, I mean one complete circle where every one of your points adds up. It all makes sense compared to all of your other points. Let's see if any of you can do it. There's the challenge. Prove to the world what a nutter I am. Go on. Prove it. I am happy for you to prove what a nutter I am, because then when you prove what a nutter I am, I'll know what kind of nutter I am, then I can get the appropriate help for that kind of nutter. Please help me. Help me. Prove me wrong. It'll be the greatest thing you could ever do to help me. You want to show that you care, you want to prove that you care, you want me to believe that you care, there's the chance. You wouldn't want me doubting whether you care, would you? You wouldn't want me actually being able to say you don't care. You wouldn't want me to be able to say I can prove you haven't made an effort. So then make the effort show you care. Come on. See, it's a double bind situation that. You don't really want it to be either way. You don't want to interact and take it on board. But if you don't interact, then you're proving me right. It's not nice when you're trapped on the spot, is it? No, it's not. I know that myself. But you chose to do it to me. I have no choice but to tell the truth. I have no choice but to state the facts. I have no choice but to take the steps to overcome the rubbish, the lies, and the bullshit that you have turned my life into. I await your responses. But I doubt I'll get any. Thank you.